my my colleague here too that will be facilitating together. I am Dr. Sunday Nathaniel Obasi. I'm a lecturer with National Open University of Nigeria. My department is Crop and Soil Science. My area of specialty is soil survey and land use planning. And my faculty is in Kaduna. So those of you, if you are from Kaduna, you should know the Open University village in Kaduna. So let me use that word. So that's where my office is. Then here with me, I have Miss Lebal Atinuke. I don't know if I get that first name right. I don't know. So she's the Managing Director of Cattle Foods, and she'll be fascinating with me. So briefly, you can go ahead and introduce yourself while others take it from there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doctor. My name is Atinuke Lebile.
Okay.
So it's Lebile, not Levi.
Sorry, pardon me. Pardon me.
No. So my name is Atinuke Lebile. I'm the co-founder of Cattle Foods. So Cattle Foods, the fast-growing food company here in Nigeria that is into processing of cassava into several value-added products, into vegetables. Our major goal in cattle food is to address malnutrition and eating hunger, especially in children and pregnant women. I'm also into product development for startups, for people that want to start new products.
Please, can you make it louder? I can't really hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Atinuke Lebile.
Okay.
I'm the co-founder of Cattle Foods. So Cattle Foods is a fast-growing food company here in Nigeria that is into value addition of crops, vegetables, and fruit. Our major goal in cattle food is to produce foods that are nutritious to address malnutrition and eating hunger. I'm also into product development for startups, for people that want to start a product around agricultural value chain. So if you don't know how to go about it, you don't know how to start, I'm your way to go person. And also, if you also have a product that wants to give a new look to your existing market, fine, I do that. I'll also be facilitating along with Doctor for the next 3 days, and I'll be glad to meet you all and to have a wonderful time. Thank you.
Wow. Lukman, you can carry on from there.
Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Lukman. Wow. So, into crop production, primarily tomatoes. So, hope to join this course to meet like-minded people and get to learn from everyone and share experience and tips and knowledge. Thank you.
That's a good one. Helen, you can go ahead and tell us about yourself.
Good morning, all.
Good morning.
My name is Helen Achebe. I'm into planting of vegetables and cassava processing. Though I've not kicked off with that of cassava processing, I'm still in the process of planting now. So I joined this program to learn more because let's say we're just starting.
Okay, that is a good one. In fact, it's really wonderful having this meeting with you people. As it stands now, yes, we have introduced ourselves, but in a more detailed way. We would want people to really tell us exactly what you want to do. I understand that this program is all about you are sourcing for loan from the CBN to be able to do an agricultural activity. You want to do an agricultural program, with the loan. If God helping you, you're successful in it. So based on that, we would need you to tell us what you intend to do. If possible, you can be as detailed as much as you can, because for you to really be successful, for you to really be, do well in anything you want to do, you need to have a clear understanding of exactly what you want to do. And if peradventure you're asked to do maybe a proposal, you're asked to do a presentation, you should be able to convince the person who is giving you the loan that his money is not going to be a waste. Of course, if of course you don't have a clear understanding, an idea of what you intend to do with the loan you want to collect, is an indication that there is going to be a failure. It's showing that there is possibly not going to be success in the course of that activity. So we need you to tell us to some reasonable extent what you intend to do with the loan. So of course you may take like 2-3 minutes to do that. You can go ahead, Lukman Lawal.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier into crop production. So I currently have an operation of 2 hectares of tomatoes, and well, the focus now is I'm on like the second cycle. Basically have some of the infrastructure in place, irrigation system, drip lines, borehole, and currently producing, focusing more on the dry season planting, right? And basically to more or less contribute to product availability in the market all year round, and also take advantage of the better pricing when the products come out, right? So it's in my case, it's at the scale it is now, it's self-sustaining, right? In that the investment itself is now able to more or less continue other cycles of production, or the need for the funding is for expansion, basically, right? To be able to produce beyond the current capacity, right? So at least, there is, given the focus of us producing in the dry season, there is always market availability for that, right? And so we believe we have a lot of room to expand into, which is the idea behind joining this program. To see if some additional funding can come in.
Okay, that's a good one from Mr. Lukman Lawal. Yeah, Ms. Helen, can you also go ahead with what you intend to do? Can you just briefly tell us what you intend to do? Please. Sorry, before you go ahead, I'm seeing someone that looks like Madame Awolumate. I don't know. Is she the one, or is she the, or are you Dr. Mwamaka? Please, you can unmute yourself. Unmute yourself first, please. Unmute yourself.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Sansa Benedicta. I'm here on behalf of Dr. Ibemi.
Okay,
I'm the
Ibemi,
moderator for the program.
Okay.
Yeah. You're
It's
welcome,
okay.
sir. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm seeing Dr. Sam Awunmate's platform.
Yeah.
So that's why I was a bit confused.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah. Okay, as it is now, can we, maybe we need to mute ourselves. May have to, especially if you know you have some background noise, can you just mute yourself? And as you mute yourself, then we will continue with Miss Helen Achebe. So, Miss Helen, you can go ahead and tell us what you intend to do. We still have. So, Miss Helen, you can speak up now. We are hearing you.
Is Mrs. Helen?
Oh, Mrs. Helen. Sorry, Mrs. Helen.
Okay. Like I said earlier on, we are into cassava processing and vegetable planting. Hope you can hear. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, and I'm sure that's due.
Hello. Okay. And
go ahead. We are hearing you.
Okay. And we just started. We started by planting, but we intend to expand the planting part of it, then go into the cassava processing. The essence of the loan, why I needed the loan, is for the expansion basically, and for the starting up of the cassava processing.
Okay.
And also the marketing aspect of it, because it's not just a processing. The selling part of it is also there. So that's it.
What aspect of the processing do you want to go into, ma?
Sorry?
What aspect of the processing? Because cassava value chain is actually wide. So what aspect of the processing do you want to go into?
Various parts of it, like gari, cassava flour, and we intend to do several things with the cassava, not just gari, maybe bringing out starch from it, producing smaller ones, as a lot.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, wow. Now, also before we proceed, we have our moderator here. Please, our moderator.
We have one person that just joined, Ugochukwu.
Yes, Ugochukwu. Ugochukwu, are you hearing us? Please, Ugochukwu, can you make yourself more visible? Make yourself visible and unmute yourself, and good. We can see you now. So you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. So please introduce yourself and tell us what exactly you want to do at the same time. Just do it together.
Okay, Doctor, good morning.
Good morning.
Doctor, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you.
Okay. My name is Ugochukwu, and I am a cassava farmer. I have 3 hectares of cassava farm right now on ground. The purpose of the loan is to actually expand the farm and also go into processing, because I want to process what I harvest from my farm and also buy from locals, also process to majorly I want to go into gari processing and this what we call amala, the fraud is in making amala. So these are the basically the major 2 things I want to use the loan for. But that is to buy the machines for to process this product and also expand the farm. Then there's also this new cassava I found out that that can actually mature in 6 months, and I also intend to try that out, so that I can always have a product that cassava to process every time, like apart from my farm. I'm also buying from the locals where I intention and part of the fund will also go into markets, survey and logistics and all that, and workers to pay workers that will work, people that will peel the cassava, wash, because people have to do that manually. And these are the two we want to use the fund for. While we are actually going, this is why I'm trying to get the loan anyway. It's for this, but basically it's just cassava. My cassava about 6 months old now. So a village called Dubai in Abuja.
Okay, doctor, please, before you continue, sir, Mr. Ogochukwu, before we continue the class, let me just kill the notion that there is 6 months cassava. There is no 6 months cassava. I work in cassava and I've been working in cassava for over 8 years. Hello, can you hear me?
No, yeah. Okay.
So
yeah,
let me just, before we continue.
Yeah, I was told it's a new one, although I have not seen it. Someone was telling me.
There is nothing like that. Don't believe it, sir.
Okay. I try to, in this thing, I'm trying to reach out to people, trying to make contact people who have been farming this. So I made a contact with somebody in Benue State. So he was telling me that this one they farm for 6 months, and we have not seen it. So it's also good now that you told me that anyway, that kind of especially doesn't exist. I don't know, I have not seen it before. So the one I know, I grew up with it. The number one you farm for when you close to harvest.
Okay. Why I also respond to that before we continue, as we also have a new participant that just joined us. I also want to say that this issue of 6 months, 1 year, and the rest of them, let me clarify some things there. Where I grew up, people do lowland rice, okay? And after harvesting their rice, they will need to make the soil in a form where it will be easy for them to, to cultivate it into flats again, so that they can easily plant rice back to soil. So they will quickly raise mounds there and plant cassava there. And of course, this planting usually takes place around December. October, November, December. Those are the time they are harvesting rice. In fact, some of them are around that kind, December, January too, when they are harvesting those rice. And after they must have planted that cassava. Remember that area, they are lowland area. So during around that kind, June, July, which is the peak of the rains to some extent, there is very high rainfall in those areas at that time. Those cassava, because those places are swampy area, they are swampy soils. So if you don't harvest that,
Hello, doctor, are you there? Doctor, I think we lost doctor. Okay. I
don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. So we will still go into all this in a more detailed way. Can Zachary Garba, can you unmute yourself and talk to us? We need you to introduce yourself to us and tell us what exactly you want to do with the CBN loan. Thank you.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Are you hearing me?
Go ahead, I'm hearing you.
Hello, good morning.
Yeah.
All right, sir. My name is Zachary Garba, sir. I am into soybeans cultivation, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I cultivated soybeans and grains. Are you hearing me, sir?
Yes.
I want to use the loan in order to boost my
We are not
cultivation.
seeing your face. Your camera is showing your head. So let your camera show your face. We want to see your face so that even after this meeting, yes, better. After this meeting, any day I see you, I will call you your name, Zachary Garba. I'll say, how are you? So go ahead. Better now.
All right. I said I'm into soybeans cultivation. Right now, I have cultivated about 3 to 4 hectares of farm now on soybeans. And initially, I cultivated maize. It's about to harvest. So I need the money in order to boost my cultivation business. And I need more experience on how to boost my cultivation. That is it, sir.
Okay. That is a good one. Okay, now, before we proceed, I want the moderator to talk to us and tell us what is expected of us to do in the course of this training. Tell us the rules, the things that is expected of us and things like that. Just talk to us because you are the one that owns this platform.
Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, ma.
My name is Sansa Benedicta. We have 2 facilitators here to teach us on crops. And along the line, if the members deem it to conserve their data, they can unmute their video. And they can put off their video in order to conserve their data. The rule is that when a question is being asked, you have to raise your hand electronically, and the moderator will call upon anyone to put up the questions, and the facilitator answers. And we have the number of hours the facilitators are meant to speak and create time for questions and answer. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, ma.
So, as it stands now, we have introduced ourselves, and we have also said what we all intend to do and what we hope to get the loan we are sourcing for, what we intend to do with it. And all of that, we have all shared some of the things in our mind and all of that. And here we can see from what I gathered here, the first person who spoke, Lukman, talks about, operations of, is into tomato production. He wants to go into dry season planting. Lukman, I hope I'm correct, right? He wants to,
He's already into.
Oh, it's okay, but at least he's hearing me. So he wants to, go into expansion. He has actually been on self-sustainability all this while. So the second person, so that one is talking on tomato. He wants to expand. He wants to go into, to enlarge. Then the second person here, Mrs. Helena Chebe, wants to go into cassava processing, cassava flour in particular, and of course, she's already on vegetable production. but now she wants to expand into cassava flour production and do some other things alongside that, processing and things like that. So then Ugochukwu is also interested in cassava farming. He's already into cassava farming. He owns up to 2 hectares or so of cassava around Abuja, and he wants to increase his farming, and also he wants to harvest and be able to process by himself, because as a farmer, if after harvesting you have to go looking for who would process for you, when you finish all of that and you want to sell your products, your income will be very low. You would have spent all the money in labor and in processing and things like that. So, but when you own this fixed asset, so to say, when you own the assets and you use them to you constantly process by yourself, produce your gari. According to him, he wants to go into gari production. He wants to go into amala production. Of course, he would. So far now, out of the 4 participants we have 4 participants. Out of 4 of them, we already have 2 people who are interested in cassava production, and then we have Zachary Garba, who is into soya beans production, and he wants to expand it, and he is also interested in maize. So I don't know, Atinuke, can you say some things before we actually?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you everybody for the introduction. Like, I'm really glad that I'm speaking to everyone, and I'm so glad that I also have people
at
in
least
cassava
the
processing.
training on the
So
half
it's a
stream
good
is a very good
time for
one,
me
but
to share my
the
own
process is
knowledge
so
because
and I believe that it's more complex.
We have so much
Things
interference.
what I expect is that if we can go into the nitty-gritty,
Miss Benedicta,
yeah.
I guess the noise is coming from your side. I don't know, but I am feeling that way. So you may just mute yourself. Good. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm so glad that I also have about 2 people going into cassava processing. Can we all hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a privilege for me to share my knowledge, because so far we've been able to process about 25 products from cassava. So it's a very good way to share my knowledge, and also for the expansion and all that for tomatoes and every other person. One thing I also want us to realize that we are getting this loan for us to expand, yes, but do we really know where to expand and the aspect to expand to? Because sometimes we feel we need money, but sometimes it's not the money that we actually need at that time. It might not just be the knowledge. And sometimes we feel it is time for us to get some machines. Why sometimes it's just contract manufacturing that we need at the stage we have. Now, although that is why we are all in the class so that we could understand our business more. I don't just want all of us to just come to the class like, okay, I just have to attend this class because I need to attend it to get the certificate to apply for the NISA loan. No, don't have that type of mentality. Have a mentality that I am coming to class to learn more on how to improve my business. So it's not just about you to come get certificate so that you can apply. You're coming to learn more on how you can do better in what sector you have, your tomatoes, your soya bean, your cassava, and all that. So we should have that at the back of our mind. And so far, so good. I and Doctor, we've been able to divide the class in a way that's going to help everybody. And Doctor will talk more on the crops, the cultivation, and all. While I talk on the value chains and the record keeping. Although that doesn't mean Doctor is not going to also bring an input into whatever I say, or I want to contribute. And we are also here also to ask questions. And please don't forget that at the end of each class, you also have quiz your questions to answer on the portal. Please don't forget that, so that so that the whole training will be perfect, and we all have a wonderful time. Thank you. Over to you, sir.
Wow. In fact, I want to really thank God for the kind of people we have so far. For those of us on this crop platform, I want to say that we are blessed. Everything you need to be successful in the venture you are entering into, you will get it on this platform. We have our sister here, Atinuke. She's highly experienced in the field in terms of value addition to your product, especially cassava. And here, majority of the people who are on this platform are going into cassava. So it's a very good one. And I also want to say something about the issue she raised. Most people always believe that what they need is money, fund, want to expand. I want to say during the past administration of the President Goodluck Jonathan, some of you must have heard about You Win. I'm sure you've heard about You Win, right? So in that You Win, I know somebody who got 10 million naira for cassava processing too. He got applied for 10 million and he got 10 million. And the first year or 2 years into it, I went to his cassava farm. He was doing so well. He was flourishing. I also went to his processing plant. There is no manner of equipment you wouldn't see there. The guy got all the equipment. He got everything. But as I talk to you now, I'm sure he has sold off all those things. And he even went broke. And God saved him. Just last year, he got a lecturing job in one of the universities in the Southeast. So why I'm saying this is that most times, most of us think if I can get 5 million now, if I can get 10 million now, it's not all about the money. Do you know exactly what you want to do? Have you really prepared your mind? Most times, some of us believe that this money is our money. It's federal government money. I beg, let me get it. And when some get it, they will go and marry if they have not married. Some that already have one wife would like to take additional more wives. Some will go and buy expensive cars. Some will even go and build a duplex with the money. And they will just relax and they will feel, my dear, let me enjoy myself. And maybe along the line, they even have one job or the other they are doing somewhere that is providing some support. So that idea will not help you. It will also not help the government. The essence of this is for empowerment. If you are adequately empowered, you can help solve the unemployment in the country. By the time you start off your plant, by the time you start off your processing plant or whatever business you are into, it will not be long. You will employ 1 or 2 or 3 persons. By so doing, you are already contributing immensely to reduce unemployment in Nigeria. So it does not matter whether you are now a big boy or not. Your ability to be an employer of labor has really distinguished you as a citizen of this country. Because whether you like it or yes, those people who have been employed, who are being paid from that venture, and by so doing, they are putting food on their tables and they are paying school fees for their children, my dear, they will be praying for you. They will not forget you, and God will also bless you. So let's not be too selfish. When you get a loan and your interest is how to go and buy a very expensive car and be cruising on the street of Abuja, that is not the purpose of the loan. God will not be happy with you. And that's one of the reasons why some people even fail, because there is no dedication. They don't have that dedication. they don't have that commitment, they don't have that tenacity to really pursue and ensure that they make out something profitable from what they are into or what they are going into. So please do as much as you can to ensure that you make out something worthwhile from this. When God helping you, you are able to access the loan. Okay? I hope I'm communicating. I saw one Raymond. I don't know if Raymond is still on the platform or Raymond is not here again. So, but whatever is the case, we are continuing. I will be starting with us on the platform of, cultivation. The principles of cultivation is just general. It's just that when it comes to certain things, like crops, like when it comes to maize, when it comes to beans, when it comes to cassava, yam, and the rest of them, they all have different requirements, input requirements. Whether you like it or yes, something like site selection, something like nutrient availability and things like that, and whatever, all of them to some reasonable extent, you need to have almost the same kind of mindset before going into it first. So when you must have gone into it, you now begin to go into the different areas you are needed, or that areas that are really expected in terms of the things you want to do, what some of the things you really will be doing. So based on that now, the class is supposed to last for 6 hours. 6 hours. To me, 6 hours is a very big time. It's a very big time, I must tell you. We only have 24 hours in a day. And 6 hours means 1/4 of it. So we'll be spending 1/4 of our time on this platform. But I want to say, I don't know about the moderator. The moderator, you can hear me. Must we spend these 6 hours? Please talk to us here. Now, unmute yourself and talk to us. Must we stay on this seats here and talk for the next 6 hours? Or if we can actually conclude, because somebody like me, what I intend to do, I have divided it into 3 for the 3 days. So if maybe I am done today, I should be able to have what to say tomorrow and next tomorrow. So can you tell us, must we spend the 6 hours here, or if we are done today for what we are supposed to do today, can we call it a day, irrespective of when we finish?
Thank you, our facilitator. We have 6 hours for this lecture today.
Yeah. Yes.
In which questions and answers are asked, and we communicate with each other later if there is any problem. Thank you, sir.
What I'm saying is, must we stay for that 6 hours before we end, even when we have exhausted what we have for the day?
No. Whatever we have discussed, even if it's not up to the 6 hours, it's okay.
Okay, thank you very much. That's just what
Yes,
it's
sir.
better now, because to talk this 1 hour we have talked now. The small breakfast I had this morning is already, major part of it has been used. But nevertheless, God will help us. We will make it interactive. It's going to be as interactive as much as possible, so that we don't feel it so much. We don't feel so much challenge in the course of the training. So thank you very much. Now, I will be taking us on production, cultivation, the cultivation aspect. I'll be taking us on the cultivation aspect. Of course, cultivation is excuse me. So we'll be going into cultivation. And just as we're saying, when I talking about some of the things that had to do with the farming, of course, you are not going to collect, those of you who want to go into processing, you also need to farm first before you process, isn't it? So some of us that want to go into one thing or the other, we still, to some reasonable extent, we are going to do farming. So whenever we talk about farming, we talk about what we call cultural practices. We talk about some operations that are very, very necessary. That when these operations, when they are not gotten right, then very obvious you may not do well, because whether I like it or yes, when you want to build a house, you start from the foundation. And if the foundation is challenged, if the foundation has problem, you may always be rest assured that you may not get the best from that. The house may end up collapsing one day. So based on that, we want to build some foundation. And this foundation is what will determine how successful your yield or the output will be, which will finally justify the loan you are collecting. Because if after collecting loan, you farm with 5 million naira and the yield is yield of 200,000, is a failure, and we wouldn't want such a thing. And that is a more reason. That is a reason why CBN has referred you to come and receive some training from professionals, from experts who will tell you some things. We also understand that some of you have been into this maybe on a small scale. You have been farming. Those who are in cassava, some of them have been farming. Those who are doing vegetable production, you have been farming. Those of you who have been doing one thing or the other, you have started doing it, though at a self-sustaining level. You're doing this at a little level on your own part. So, and now you want to expand, you want to access some more money and be able to expand in a way that somehow you can get a larger output and be able to, if possible, employ some other of your colleagues, so that it will finally justify what the government is doing. So we'll be going into what we call pre-planting operations, that what we call pre-planting operations. And that's what we call planting operations, and that's what we call post-planting operations. Pre-planting, planting, and post-planting. So all of these are some of the activities that needs to really be done. Then now, generally, when we talk about pre-planting, when we talk about pre-planting operations, we are talking about some of the things that have so much to do with first, site selection. The place you want to farm, I want to tell you, all soils are not the same. All soils are not the same. All soils cannot serve the same purpose when it comes to agricultural activities. Just as it will be very, very dangerous to go and put 7 or 8 or 10-story building in a swampy soil, that is also how it's going to be very, very difficult for you to go and do farming on a soil that does not have certain nutrient compositions. So based on that, when you want to farm, the first thing you do is you get a fertile soil. Cassavas grow on fertile soil. Soya beans, maize, vegetables, they grow on fertile soils. We also understand that recently there are some hormones, some materials that can be more like hormonal materials that can be injected into plant. You can mix them with water and pour. Some of them, they are more like organic material, fertilizers, and the rest, you pour them on the soil, and those soils will produce in a very bigger ways and all of that. But that one too, for those who are into genetically modified organisms, GMOs, some of them have also proven that some of those materials may not be very wonderful for consumption. Whereas also, while that may still be that as it may that may also be used, but in a very recommended quantity. But then site selection is very, very important. Site selection is very, very useful when you want to do agricultural activity. So site selection is very, very, very important. So based on that, I want to tell us that now they said consideration for site selection should be based on the size of the farm. So the size of the farm is very, very necessary. You first of all consider the size of the farm you are using, the type of the crop you want to grow. The type of the crop you want to grow is very, very important. You really need to consider that. And also the fertility of soil. Also another thing is topography of the land. Topography. When we talk about topography, we are talking about the terrain of the area, the terrain of the soil you are working on. We have what we call slope percent of soils. Slope percent is, you see some soils, some of them may have something like 0 to 2 to 3%. It's more like a little undulating. It's just more like an undulating situation. Undulating is that it's not completely level, it's not completely flat, but then it's not bad. The reason is because things like sheet erosion, things like real erosion may not be very, very common in those areas, because when rain falls, all the nutrients on that soil, they will still remain on their location. They will not be washed away. But when you are using a soil that has a very slopy nature or a very slopy terrain, you realize that whenever it's raining, you see, runoff, water that will be flowing at a very high speed across that very soil. And when such a thing happens, one of the challenges that we finally take place is that the nutrient composition of the soils will be washed away. So you really need to consider the topography of the area. Then also you really need to have an idea of water availability. Do you have access to water? Yes. So those in the south, somehow there is more rainfall here. More rainfall is more distributed in the southern Nigeria than in the northern Nigeria. So where you are farming, especially if you want to go into dry season farming, you should be able to know if you have access to water. If you don't have natural water, a rain-fed situation where you depend on the natural rains, you may have to have irrigation facility, irrigation activity. We will also discuss about irrigation maybe probably tomorrow, unless we'll talk about irrigation. So you need to have irrigation facility where you'll be able to water this plant as at when required. So when you properly water the plant, when you give them proper moisture, then the essence of the moisture is to soften the nutrients. The nutrients are there in the soil, but there is a form in which they needed to be before plant can take them. So, and that form includes a more like soluble form. So if water comes in contact with this nutrient in the soil, they will be made available, and plant can now take them. But if there is no moisture, I want to tell you, the nutrients, even if you like, put all the fertilizer, there may be no significant improvement. So also, accessibility to market is also another thing. Some of our farmers in the very, very interior part of the country, mostly in the north, after farming, some of them, before they can ship this product to where they can really make good sales from it, some of them would have started spoiling and all of that. So when your farm is a bit closer to a source of market, it's an advantage because you will not likely struggle to sell the products coming from the farm. Now, normally, neutral loam soil that is rich in organic manure is usually ideal. Now, when we talk about neutral soils, we're talking about soils that the pH is near neutral, usually from 5.5 to at least 6.8. It shouldn't be too alkaline and it shouldn't be too acidic. When it is for anything from 4, 3, 2, 1, they're highly acidic soils, and I want to tell you, plant will likely not do well in such soils. Now, as we continue to, that is about choice of site selection. Site selection. So when you must have gotten the site, we are talking about one of the things that you have to do is you do site clearing. You clear the site. So how do you clear site? Bush clearing is done to prepare the land for farming. You may use a slashing, hand slashing. You may invite, that is true by labor, hire people that will do the clearing for you. We already know all of this. Use of using machete, depending on the thickness of the bush. You can use machete to clear. You can also use tractor to clear too. If it's a very big forest, you cannot use machete to cut it. You use tractor first to remove some of the big trees and all of that. Then when you must have done the cutting, you may also have to do burning. You may have to do burning. And the burning may be optional because those leaves you cut out can on their own decay and form organic matter, form organic substance, which is also very rich in manure. Organic matter is very, very rich in manure. The only difference between organic matter and fertilizer is that organic matter is in the inorganic, form. It's in the organic form, whereas the fertilizers we use are in the inorganic form. And the plant can only take nutrient that is already converted into inorganic. So when they are in the organic form, the plant will not use them in the organic form. So they need to be converted to inorganic. And that process is being done by microorganisms that are in the soil. They will need to spend some time to break down these organic substances into inorganic form. And the process is called the process of mineralization. So when these materials have been broken down into inorganic substances, of course, plants can now begin to take them. Now, when plants are also taking these materials, these nutrients, these microorganisms that broke them down, we also take some to also service their own body, to service their own cells, and all of that. A situation whereby this organic material is not much, the materials, the microorganisms will almost end up using all these organic materials to build their cells. And we now say that the nutrients have become immobilized. That is a process of immobilization. They would have used it to build their cells. And of course, there will be nothing left again for the plant to use. But when there is enough organic matter, the nutrients, the microorganisms will use enough to build themselves. And after they must have used enough to build themselves, they will still have enough that they can also use for this, for the one that plant can also use. So based on that, it is very, very crucial that before you go into bush burning, you think of all these things. Bush burning is wonderful. It adds potash to the soil. But organic matter is a richer component of nutrient, which will, at the long run, be much more useful to your crop than maybe the bush burning. So, but if you choose to go bush burning, there's nothing wrong with that. You can also go into that. Now, assuming that you have used tractor now to Assuming you have used tractor now, to bulldoze the soil and to fall some of the trees and the rest of them. There's also what we call stumping, stumps. Stumping is from the word stump. So I believe removing stump, something like the roots of trees, the big roots of trees, they need to be removed. So because they need to be removed, it involves the farm tools like cutlass. You can use cutlass to remove that stumps. You can use spade to remove it. You can use mattock. You can even use axe. You can use a bulldozer also to remove the stumps. And also you can manually or mechanically remove or uproot the base of trees and shrubs that are, in your soil and all of that. So, and this is done to make cultivation easier. The reason is because if you are going into commercial farming, then definitely you are not going to, if you are going to commercial farming, definitely you are not going to use human beings to do the farming, to do the ridges. You are likely going to use tractor. You are likely going to sand. If you are going to use tractor to do your ridges, and there are stumps on that soil, it will affect the neatness of the work. It may not come out clean as expected. So based on that, there will be need for you to do your stumping very well. And we must have done all of that before you go into the next thing, which we call plotting. And plotting is more like mapping out of demarcation. You demarcate your plots into how you want it to come out. You demarcate it, you measure it out. The essence of measuring will help you for record keeping, so that if you harvest 10 bags from a particular location, you now know that this is I got 10 bags of maize in an hectare, or 5 bags of beans from my this thing, or 8 bags of soya beans from 2 or 3 hectares. So you'll be able to record your yield. You'll be able to give accurate information of your yield. But if you just go ahead and plant, you didn't measure out, you don't know how many meters, you don't know how many square meters, you don't know how many hectares or even plots, you may just end up not knowing the exact yield. So you won't be able to keep accurate record. The essence of record keeping is that you'll be able to know whether you're making profit or loss, because when you finish everything, you pay labor, you do all those things. And if you don't have record of exactly what you did, the input, the land size, the yield, and the rest of them, you won't be able to know whether you are going forward or you are going backward, whether you are doing well or not. So you'll be able to plot out and measure your farms the way it is. If, for instance, you want to divide your plot into 4, you want to farm cassava in one part, you want to farm maize in the other part, you want to do tomato in the other side, you want to do vegetable in the other side, you need to measure them out and accurately know that, yes, cassava is sitting on 3 plots of land, or cassava is sitting on 2 hectares of land, and the maize is sitting on 5 hectares of land, and vegetables, Periferia occidentalis or Ogo is sitting on 1 hectare. So, but if you refuse to measure out, you will just be planting and you won't be able to give accurate record of this thing. So you need to actually measure out your plots, the places you are planting each, you need to measure them out. This one is going to be here, this one, and you have accurate record in your record book or in your bookkeeping. And that will give you a good, a good record of what you are doing. Now, this is about land preparation. We are going to be talking about some of the things we are going to do with respect to seed. What I have been discussing so far is about the land where you are going to use to do your farming now. But then, after preparing this land, you may have a very wonderfully prepared land, or even a very highly fertile soil where you intend to do your farming. But what if at the end of the day, you went to take a seed that has problem, a seed that is not improved, a seed that is not, you're not sure of the source of the seed, and you decided to use that seed for your farming? I want to tell you, you may end up not getting a very good yield. Yes, it has happened to me before when I did, I farmed some in a piece of land, and I just decided I couldn't, the maize I bought from a certified dealer had exhausted. So remaining some part, I still wanted to plant maize. I quickly went to the where they sell grain, the store where they sell grain. I said, please give me 2 or 3 cups of maize. And I planted them. They were wonderful. They were very tall. They did so well. They grew vegetatively so well. But when it comes to yielding corn, the one that I really planted it for, it was very, very poor. The yield was very, very poor. So, and that taught me so much lesson. But the one I went to a certified dealer, that the seed was treated, the seed was wonderfully prepared, and after that I got that and I planted it. I had almost 97% germination rate, and the maize, they were not as tall as the one I purchased from the grain sellers shop in the market. They were not that too tall, but you see them having some very wonderful corn that had some things inside. I now say, wonderful, this is another experiment. So based on that, the source of your seed is very, very important. Where you are picking your seed from is very, very important. So now, before planting your seed, you need to plant materials such as the seed you will be planting may be something like seed. It may be like seed. It may be in the form of seedlings. Okay, maybe seed, like when you plant seed, maize now. When you plant soya beans, when you plant maize, soya beans, and the rest, they are all planted, propagated by their seed. But then there are also plants where you use seedlings. You use seedlings. Seedlings are the ones probably you may have to grow it first in a nursery. And when you must have grown them in the nursery, they would have grown for like 2 or 3 weeks or 1 month, as the case might be, and then you carefully remove them and do transplanting. You do that with seedlings. But so seedlings is different from seed now. Seedlings is that it has been cultivated somewhere where the condition of growth was provided and adequately monitored, and it sprouted and grew to some extent, and they were now transplanted into the field. The reason why that transplanting is very, very important is that nursery is very, very important, is that these seeds, maybe they are very, very small or they are very, very fragile, that if you just go and plant them anyhow, the harsh weather of the field may just choke them to death immediately. So you may now initially have to prepare a seed bed. So when you prepare that seed bed, you may even spray them on top, and you now use some kind of leaves and all of that, straws, to cover it, and you water it adequately, and then allow them to grow, and they will grow to some extent, and you monitor it. Then after some weeks, you will now transplant. So it's not all crops. You can plant crops like ugu like that. You can plant pepper like that. You can even plant rice like that before this era of broadcasting, that they just do broadcasting. Rice was formerly, as a teenager, I farmed rice. So we did what we call nursery bed. You prepare nursery beds and all of that. Then from there you do. So based on that, that is for seeds, seedlings. And there is ones like cottons, like cassava. Now you need to use cotton. You need to cut the cassava stems and plant it. So that is the one that has the cottons. Of course, we also have suckers like pineapple. Pineapple, you use propagate them by suckers, and so on and so forth. So now, whichever of these seeds you are going to use now, one thing is very, very important. One thing is absolutely important, and that thing that is important is, where are you collecting these seeds from? They should be free from disease and pest infestation. If you pick a seed that is already infested with one disease or the other, the situation may not change. As a matter of fact, when you are growing the thing, the disease will come and attack even the ones that you may have collected from a good source. So you ensure that you get seed that have been treated from infections of diseases and pest infestation before you go ahead to planting them. Also, these seeds should also be viable. They should be viable, and they should also be stored properly. They should be stored properly before use. Of course, some of us already used to what we call storage, storage and all of that. There are some seed. If you just keep them like that, before you know it, weevils and whatever would have borehole inside them. So you need to keep them. When you go to the northern Nigeria, inside the far north, you will see some of our farmers. There's some things they build with earth. They will build it in front of their small huts. That place is where they store their grains, especially the one they want to use for the next planting season. So if they want to do all of this, they will store the crops very well. The reason is that if they don't store it that way, they may be attacked by weevil, they may be attacked by pests and diseases, and that will reduce their survival rate whenever you plant them. That will reduce their ability to do well whenever you plant them. So also, planting material of high quality should be bought and should be collected from ministries of agriculture. So it is advisable that you go to ADP. For those of you who want to do even cassava, and let me also tell us, we have more of people who want to do cassava here. We have more people who want to do cassava here. Now, cassava, there is the one they call what do they call it? Yellow root cassava. Yellow root cassava is a very good cassava that it has so much nutrient in it, especially vitamin A. And sometimes, so if you are using this yellow root cassava, you don't even need to add oil to it. After frying it, if you are using for gari processing, after frying the gari look normally red, as though you have actually added red oil to it. The essence, the reason is because it contains some nutrient, vitamin A nutrients in it. So some of those high quality planting materials should be sought for, and you can't get them anyhow. Some of them are with ADPs, all these agricultural development program centers in respective states. So before you do your planting, go to ADPs and get your planting materials, or research institutes and get your planting materials. If you get your planting materials from the wrong place, you may put all the inputs, you may put all the fertilizers, you may put all the good soil you may think of, you may do all the irrigation facilities you have, you may do all those things. At the end of the day, you may not get something very, very reasonable. So based on that, you need to always get, good seed from the right source. Now we briefly go into planting operations. Planting operations. Remember, what we're talking about is some cultural practices that involve pre-planting, planting, and post-planting. So I guess I'm done with the pre-planting now. All I've been talking so far are the pre-planting operations. Some of the things you have to know before you go into, planting. Now we have planting operations now, and this is the actual planting of seedlings, seeds, or the propagation materials. So planting operations comprises of all the activities carried out during the planting process, and they may include the following, which may be such as seed treatment. Seed treatment is one of the planting activities, operations that have to be done. That seed treatment, some of the seed you get from ADPs or research institutes, some of them they have been treated already. You may not need, if they have treated it, they will tell you that they have treated it, that you don't have to treat it afresh. But if you have not treated it, if they have not treated it, they will tell you how to treat it before you plant it. Some of the seeds may be susceptible to termites. There are some seeds that when you plant it, before you go there again, termite has dug the ground, picked that seed and eaten it. So, but you may have to soak it in certain chemicals that when you plant it, those termites, when they come close to the seed, they smell from the chemical will pursue them. And if they insist on eating it, they may end up dying. So they will run away from the seed, and your seed will germinate and do well. And that also brings me to some of our soils too. There are some soils you also need to treat when you want to plant your distance. Some soils, depending on what you want to go into, you may have to treat it. You may even have to incorporate some things like organic manure, like poultry manure on the soil, especially if you want to go into vegetable production. You may have to incorporate something like poultry manure on the soil and leave it for a week or two before you plant your distance. So in the case of seed now, you may have to dip it into certain chemicals before you plant them and all of that. Now, after that, the next thing we have is spacing. The spacing of plant spacing. Plant spacing is actually one of the operations that is very, very important whenever we are doing our planting. Spacing is very, very important, and that refers to distance, allowable distance of in between crops, two crops standing. What are the allowable distance? And of course, different crops have different allowable distances between them. The reason why this planting distance is very, very important is because if you don't, if you're not concerned about the planting distance, some people want to maximize their soil. They want to, one small portion, they will plant so many things in it. And after they plant it, my dear, that will be wonderful, but most of them will end up choking themselves. Most of them will end up choking themselves. There will be so much competition per unit area, competition for nutrients per unit area. So based on that, there will be need for you to actually give the normal distance while planting. If you put the normal distance and you do all the required activities you're supposed to do, I want to tell you, you will still get a very good yield. So when it comes to yield, it's not all about jam-packing your field with crops, no spacing at all. It's not all about that will make you get the best yield. The best yield is when the crops do well. When they do well, you have yield. And that brings us to the fact that if you are having doubt with the survival of the seeds as you are planting, if you feel that the viability of the seeds has actually come down, has reduced, you may plant more seeds. But if all of them turn out to germinate more than you expected, my dear, you have to go back and do what we call thinning. Do what we call thinning exercise. And thinning has to do with removing some, especially some that are not doing very well. If you have planted four, for instance, per hole, 4 seed per hole of maize, you may look at it and remove some. The ones, especially that are not doing very well, just use cutlass and cut them off. And when you do all of that, the other 3 will be able to do better together. But if also you feel that 3 of them are doing so well, 4 of them are doing so well, and all of that, you may also not have need to do that. But most of the time, when there is so much overcrowding of these crops, they tend to do competition and they have issues. So now, planting distance or spacing. We have planting distance for certain crops here. I'll be mentioning some crops here that we have the planting distance and all of that. We're mentioning some of them. And we say that the distance given between one stand of a cultivated crop and another, it varies from one type of crop to another. And the recommended planting distance for some common garden crops are as follows. Some common crops, their recommended planting distance as follow. So the first one here is tomato. The first one here is tomato. So tomato is 40 cm to 60 cm. 40 cm to 60 cm. and I'm sure we understand what 40 cm is. If you, of course, if you have a rule, this rule that we use is 30 cm. So you just add additional 10 cm to it, it becomes 40 cm. And you can even just measure it out with a stick somewhere and use it to guide yourself in the field when you are doing the actual planting. So now 40 cm to 60 cm between rows, and 30 cm to 50 cm between plants or stands. Now, what that means is that assuming you are going to plant on ridges that have been done by a tractor, the tractor disc should be set such that the ridges should be able to stand at least 40 cm to 60 cm apart. That is between rows, in between the rows. But now, the planting distance of the actual crops now for tomato, between the distance between one plant or another should vary between 30 cm to 50 cm per stand. I don't know if I am being understood. I don't know if I am understood. So now okay, let me finish the planting distance. When I finish the planting distance, I will open the floor for us to either ask questions or to tell with me if you people are following or not. You'll be able to tell me whether you are actually hearing me, you're following me, you're understanding me. If there's areas you need me to improve in the way I'm handling it and all of that, you may also advise me. But let me finish up with the planting distance. So when I finish, I will open the floor for us to communicate before we continue. Now, for the first one I talked about is for tomato. Now, the number 2 is okra. Okra, Ibermuscus, is also 60 cm to 90 cm between rows and 30 cm between plants or within the row. Between plant is 30 cm, but between the ridges is 60 to 90 cm. Cowpea is beans or Vigna unguiculata is 80 cm between rows and 30 cm within rows. 80 cm between rows and 30 cm, that is distance between the different plant on each row. So that is it for cowpea. If you are also going to yam, between rows is like 1 meter. 1 meter is apart. That is for yam. And of course, maize is 90 cm between rows and 30 cm between 30 cm along the rows. 90 cm between the rows and the 30 cm along, that is between the crops on each row, 30 cm. Now, cassava is also around 1 meter. Cassava is around 1 meter apart. So you do 1 meter between rows and also 1 meter between the plants along the row. Carrots is 40 cm between rows and 1 cm between, and 1 to 15 cm along the rows. 30 cm between rows and 1 to 15 cm along the trees or the brokers. And also we have sorghum. Sorghum is Guinea corn. We have 60 cm apart for tall variety and 20 cm to 30 cm apart for the dwarf varieties. And we also have for groundnuts, Arachis hypogaea, we have 25 cm apart and along the rows. Now, seed rates, as I said earlier, we talk about seed rate. Seed rate is the quantity of seed that you drop per hole. So the quantity of seed, planting material required to plant up an area in the amount of seed per stand of the field. So you need to also use your sense of judgment to put this, the number of seeds. The more number of seeds, the more overcrowded the crops will likely be and all of that. But if you sense that the seeds may not have wonderful viability, you may increase the number of seed rate per hole and all of that. But if you're sure that your seeds are highly, viable, you can reduce it and plant normal, since if it has 95 to 97% germination rate. Now, the next thing is time of planting. But before I go into time of planting, I want us to respond, because this class can only be good if we make it a bit interactive. So please, let's unmute ourselves and let's talk. Let's talk to me. Yes, before we continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your teaching. We are very much happy about it, because some of us, they plant and they don't even do the measuring or whatever. And I have experienced it, and I planted for the first time and everything choked up. A good learning for us. So let us have the questions and answer. Please raise up your hands electronically so that there won't be any noise.
Yeah.
Let's all come up with questions and answers, please.
Please, whether you have question or not, you can just unmute yourself and communicate. Let me just hear you talk.
Okay.
Let's know if we're actually getting along.
Doctor, well, personally, I've actually learned from you more, so we are still here, sir. But I don't know for the other participants.
I'm in a meeting, please.
Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, this is Lukman. Thanks very much, Doctor, for the presentation. It's good. For the large part, it kind of confirms most of what we have been doing. So at least the objective for me is, at least have that confidence that, at least most of what you've been doing is correct. And if there are areas where we need to pick up additional tips and expert advice, we'll take note of that as well. But so far, it's been very good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So more people, please. I want to hear you talk. Mrs. Helen, can you talk to me?
Yes, I've learned a lot from this one. Really enjoying the lecture.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is a good one. Are you actually getting along with us? Are you?
Sure. I'm even jotting down, sir.
That is a good one. Gochuku, please, can you talk to me? Cassava man.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the class, but just that I don't know if it's from my side. Sometimes I couldn't hear you for like a couple of times. I have to go out to come in again. So the thing keep throwing me out, and I keep coming joining some class. But so far so good. The class have been more interesting and more interactive anyway.
Wow, that is a good one. My partner, Atinuke, can you say something before we continue?
Actually, it has really been a wonderful class. You actually did justice to the family practices, the family spaces, and it's been awesome. It's really been a wonderful time here. Yeah.
Wow. So thank you very much. Actually, in the online meetings and activities and classes, it's not the same with physical. So we just have to look for a way to make ourselves lively. Because if you're in the class now, I'll be seeing everybody's face. I can even point at you and ask you to tell me how you feel. But God is helping us. We are coming up, and really is wonderful. So we are continuing. This is almost around 10 o'clock. Let's see what we can achieve in the next 30 minutes, or call it around 10:30, so that Ms. Atinuke can come up and carry on with her part so that maybe from 10:30 to 12, let's see whether we can call it a day. Because I want to tell you, it's not a very, it's really sweet as we are doing it, but my dear, now talk now. So thank you for following up so far, and as we continue in the class. Now, we have talked about the planting spacing. We have actually talked about the pre-planting, you know, all the things you're supposed to do before planting, and we have entered into planting operations. And in the planting operations, we first of all dealt with even the seed selection, and we handled the planting distances between crops, rules, and the rest of them. Now, we want to go into the time of planting. Planting time. Some materials or some literatures will say date of planting. But when we say date now, it will look as if there is a fixed date that if you don't plant that date, something will happen. Something bad will happen. So that is why we, we say planting time. Time could be any time. Okay? So now, this refers to the period of the year at which a particular crop sown in order to produce well. A crop can be sown at a particular time before that crop can actually do well. Now, there's what we call rain-fed agriculture. There's what we call irrigation agriculture. So if you are going to depend on rain-fed, if you are going to depend on rains, as in God sending you rain for your crops to do well, then you have to take this very time very, very, very seriously. But if you know you have your irrigation facility or you intend to use irrigation system, then good, you can farm anytime. You can farm anytime all year round. Because as I said earlier, it is the moisture, the rains that will soften the nutrients in the soil, including some of the fertilizers and the rest of them. It is the rain, the water, the moisture that will soften them and make them available for plants to use. And if they are not made available, I want to tell you, plants will not be able to take them up. And so no matter how rich that soil is, the soil may end up, the crops may end up suffering serious challenge. Now, it is usually after the first rain in the year for most crops, except where irrigation is practiced. So the first year in the rain, the first rain in the year is usually what we target before we plant. If you have the first rain in the year, you now begin to think of how you quickly go into your planting. However, planting date varies from different crops. This is due to type of crops. So, for example, some grains and legumes require little rainfall for growth and production, and a dry period for the grain and pods to get dried. So vegetables, especially the leafy types, require wet period for their growth and production. So this is why specific period of the year is recommended for the growing of various crops in the different parts of Nigeria and in West Africa. Now, for example, now, early maize is planted in the southern Nigeria between late February and April. Late maize in August and September, while it is planted June in the north. Cotton is planted June too. So late yam is sown between March and early June or November around the riverine areas as early crops. Cassava is cultivated between March and October for good harvest. And now, actual date of the day planting is done is referred to as sowing date. For instance, maize is grown between February and April, but this actual day of planting a plot could be maybe 28 February, and of course 28 February is usually the last day of the month, which becomes the sowing date. The reason why you may adopt that day is that so that you know it very clearly well, that if you say it's going to take 3 months to mature, You now know from March, April, May ending, if actually the seed, the one you are using is one that matures after 3 months, you begin to quickly, think of harvest, especially when all the input requirements are already done at the appropriate time and at appropriate measurement. So the observation of correct date of planting enables crops to escape pests and diseases and failure of crops and maintain high yield. Now, I want to say something about this. Whenever we are planting, whenever we are actually doing our planting, some of the challenges we face when we don't observe correct planting date is pests and diseases. If you notice, especially for those who farm maize, if you plant maize at a very early time, the reason is that as at that time, most of the pests and diseases, they don't have enough moisture. Rain have not come. There is no food for them. They are weak. They are small in number. Majority of them may have died in the course of the drought they are coming from. Only very few are still alive. And those few, before they can multiply in number to attack crops to a point like to disturb that crop, your crops would have matured. But some people, when we have gone deep into the rains, all those pests and diseases have multiplied. They are everywhere. That is when you are going to plant your own. It will not be long. There's one pest they call an army worm that is attacking maize. It will not be long. You see them from nowhere. They will fill your field. And at the end of the day, you'll be struggling to get something from it. So early planting is very, very important, especially when you depend on rain-fed agriculture. When you are depending on rains, rain-fed situation to grow your crops, early rain is very, very important. So now, the next thing we'll talk about is planting depth. Of course, this is sowing depth required or allowed for the plant to perform well in the land. So planting depth, if it's crop that their rooting system is very poor, you may have to be a bit deep so that they will not fall at any little breeze. But if it's a crop that they have very good rooting system, then it does not matter the depth. You mustn't take it so deep inside the soil. So you need to also take that into consideration. Now, the observation of transplanting. Transplanting, as I have mentioned transplanting earlier when I made mention of raising nursery. I said something about transplanting. And of course, this is the sowing depth required or allowed. No, transplanting is the process of removing the seedling from the nursery to field, where they will be allowed to establish until maturity and harvesting. And earlier on, I've told us the reason why we transplant, why we raise some seed in the nursery. Some seed like pepper, like rice, some of them are raised in the nursery before you do your transplanting. Now, this involves lifting seedlings. It involves lifting seedlings from the nursery and planting them out in their permanent plot or field. So most tree crops and vegetables are raised in the nursery before they are planted. Most tree crops are raised in the nursery before planting them, like mangoes, oranges, and in the nursery before you plant them. Now, we have transplanting is done when seedlings are grown up to 4 or 5 leaf stage. You don't just transplant anyhow. There must be some number of leaves. The reason is because those leaves that are there will help that crop in photosynthesis. So if you allow some leaves to come and you transplant, the process of establishment will not be too difficult for the crops to survive. But if the leaves are not there and all of that, and you quickly transplant, it may take some more time before they will begin to do well. So now, it is advisable to transplant in the evening or on a dull day. It's always advisable that you make your transplant in the evening. The reason is because sun will not be so much. Sun will not be too hard. When you transplant, when there is so much sunshine, the sun will quickly beat those leaves that will be very, very useful in the establishment process through the process of photosynthesis. So the sun will quickly beat down those leaves and they will wither and fall off the following day, and the plant will begin to struggle. It will take longer time for the plant to really get established. But if you transplant in the evening, at least all through the night till when sun will be coming up the following day, the plant would have adjusted within that time, and it will help that plant to quickly pick up. Also, on a dull days are good days that there are no excessive sunshine or sunlight. You may also have to transplant that those time, and you will really enjoy it. So water the nursery before transplanting. Transplant seedlings should not be allowed to wilt. Wilting means a situation whereby sometimes some people harvest seedlings that they want to transplant, and they will leave it for quite a long time, and in that process wilting would have taken place. The seedlings would have wilted. Wilting is all the leaves, the joining part of the leaves to the stem or the seedling itself, the stem of the seedling, the adjoining part would have weakened and the leaf would have all fallen off, so they will wilt, wilting. So it will be very difficult for that plant to survive on that. So do not wait for seedlings to wilt before you transplant. So water immediately after transplanting. Remember where you have planted on your seed bed or your nursery bed, you must have been constantly watering. And as you also transplant too, you need to also water effectively. So to enable the soil get in contact with the root and the soil will quickly, work together, resulting to the growth of the plant. So the soil is checked to about 7.5 cm deep from the top. If not moist, the more water should be applied if the soil is not moist. So only healthy seedlings should be lifted and ensure that the roots of seedlings are not damaged. So when you want to do transplanting, ensure that the roots of seedlings are not damaged. So ensure that the roots are not damaged. Some people, when they want to transplant, they will just go from the root and take it like that. Before you know it, most of the roots would have broken and remain in the soil before you now plant it. As you plant it, the roots that it needs to do well have been broken into the place where you are removing that plant from. So this time around, the plant will be found difficult to be established. And that is why when you want to transplant, there's what they call the ball of earth system. Ball of earth system and the naked root system. So for most plants, you may need to harvest it alongside with the earth covered. And that is why some seedlings, like when you go to NIFOR, where they are into oil palm, seedlings production and all of that for, they give to farmers to produce and the rest. You see them developing seedlings in a small black polythene bag. They would have introduced enough organic material, manure and the rest into it, and they will grow. So when you are buying the seedlings, you are buying alongside with the ball of earth that is underneath inside the black polythene bag, and you carry it along. And when you get to where you want to plant it, you dig the soil and put it inside there and remove the nylon, as the case might be, or you may even still leave it, and over time it will just keep doing well. But assuming you just go and remove all those earths around the roots and you decide to transplant, you may have challenge, you may have issues. So the ball of earth, I think I have explained the ball of earth. And the naked root system involves lifting seedlings without soil attached to the root. And this is usually mainly in rubber, fruits, and some, and some tree productions, some tree plants. So though a farmer may choose to use it in vegetable production, so where dye polythene bags are used, where dye polythene bags are used, they should be cut off carefully before putting the plant into the soil. So when you are using polythene bags, especially the type they use for the type they use for oil palm seedling production. So when you are using that, before you put in the soil, you have to remove that black polythene. Yes, you have to remove it. Now, there is also another operation, I think the last one in the planting distant operations, that is called pricking. Pricking is removal of seed a two leaf from. Sometimes you may need so sometimes you may need to remove some seedlings, especially the weak ones. You may just remove it, or you may even allow. It's not compulsory, but just ensure that the transplanted material is healthy and you have some enough good soil that it can. Lastly, I'll be talking about post-planting now. Post-planting, I'll be doing that. Hopefully in the next 15 minutes, I should be done on post-planting. And when I'm done with post-planting operations, then Ms. Atinuke can come up to tell us what she has for us. So post-planting, and some of them are some of the things I've mentioned. So these are activities that are carried out after the crops are planted or transplanted up to the time of harvesting. Some of the things that you have to do when plants have been planted or transplanted. Of course, planted if you plant by seed, transplanted if you plant by seedlings, to the time of harvest. All the activities, all the things that have to be done within that time are all called, post-planting operations. And the number one thing is thinning. Thinning has to do with removal of excess seedling. When you have planted, one of the things that actually lead to thinning is usually sometimes when you have planted so many seeds per hole, believing that some of the seeds are not viable, and you planted like 5, like 6, some maybe 4, whereas the recommended maybe 2 or at most 3 if the seed is highly viable, especially for maize. So if that is done, when they are growing and you're realizing that they are becoming too much, you quickly thin down by removing the ones that are poorly developed, that are not coping alongside with others. You use cutlass and remove them carefully so that it does not affect others. Now, there's what we also call supplying. Supplying is the replacement of dead seedling with other planting material so as not to allow the creation of unnecessary space. If you're planting cassava now and you're planting cassava at maybe a dry season cassava planting, you plant cassava in the dry season, and shortly before the rain catches up with it, some of the cassava stems planted may have dried, some of them may have been eaten up by termites, and the rest of them. So what you do under that condition is you resupply. You resupply. The essence of resupplying is to avoid unnecessary space and also to maximize your space too. So you quickly resupply, and it will not be long. That resupplied stem, we quickly catch up with others. So you do that. Then another activity is what we call mulching. Mulching is a situation whereby some of the grasses, some of the leaves that are cut, you do not burn them off, or you do not throw them away. You place them on the surface of the soil. When you place them on the surface of the soil, not as if you are using it to cover the seeds this time around. The seeds must have germinated, the seed must have grown to some extent, and all of that. Then you just use to cover the bare floors of the soil. The advantage of mulching is, if it's a place where there is so much excessive rainfall, mulching will prevent, flood or erosion passing through that field from washing away the nutrients. So when the nutrients are coming, when the floods are coming, the mulched plants or the mulch materials will filter them and ensure that the nutrients are kept back, and maybe only the moisture, the water content are filtered out. It's not as if some nutrients will not be lost, but at least they will not be as high as when the soils are not mulched. So mulching is very, very important. And also, in addition to that, the mulched material will also decay and add organic material to the soil, thereby further enriching the soil. So very, very important. Also, I think that is for mulching. Then the next is manuring. Manuring, when you plant, you have, I think, fertilizer application and irrigation. I may have to take them together on a separate day, maybe the last day. We have to talk about fertilizer application and the irrigation and all of that the last day. So now I may not dwell so much on fertilizer. Good enough, some of you are already into farming. You have been applying fertilizer. You have used fertilizer before. You know exactly what you're doing already. But then we will still talk about them in a detailed form, and we'll still be able to ask ourselves some questions. Because at this point, fertilizer requirements are very, very necessary of certain crops. You need to have fertilizer requirements of the crops you are applying, and at the correct dose and at the correct time. So when you have done all of that, then your yield is guaranteed. Then the final operation here is the harvesting. This is the act of collecting mature crops, products from the field, either for immediate consumption, processing, marketing, or storage. And this is done either manually or by hand picking, or by use of mechanical means like simple harvesters, combine harvesters, mechanical reapers, etc. So harvesting implements include sickles, especially for rice, cutlass, go to hell. Go to hell is used to harvest some tree crops like cocoa and kola nuts and things like that. You may use something like go to hell on that. So also, okay, I think we also have the last one, which is staking. Staking, weeding, pruning, trimming, pest and disease control. Yes, you have to stake, especially for yam that has vines. You have to stake it. Or also something like cucumber. Cucumber will do so well when you stake it. When you stake cucumber and as it's growing, they are doing so well. They do well when you stake cucumber. In fact, the staking of cucumber most times is just you tie rope on the tip of the seedling as it's coming up. You tie rope on it and tie it on a crossbar, and all of them will be growing towards it, and you see them producing so well. That is taken for you. Also, weeding is done. You can do weeding through use of herbicide. You can do herbicide to do weeding. You can also do pruning or trimming depending on the kind of crop we are talking about. Then the next is also application of pesticides to control pests and diseases. So when all of these things have been done, definitely you are going to have a very good harvest. And when you do that, I want to tell you, you will smile home with good resources. You will be able to pay back your loan. You'll be able to make profits. You'll be able to also pay your employees, and you become a good citizen of Nigeria. So thank you for listening, and God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your lecture. We really enjoyed it, and we thank you so much. And as we have heard, by special grace of God, we implement and to the glory of God. Thank you, sir. God will continue to strengthen you.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you.
Let's have our second facilitator, Mr.
Sorry, before the second facilitator comes on board, let's also hear from some of our participants if there is any question from some of them, and answer anything you want to ask from what have been said so far. If there's anything question, you may just ask before Mr. Tinuke comes on board. Please unmute and talk. If you don't have question, tell me you are getting along, you don't have question, you have enjoyed the section so well. I need to hear you talk, please. Unmute yourself,
sir,
please.
while they are preparing their questions, I want to ask a question. If you do not stake your yam, what happens to it?
Okay. Staking, one of the advantages of staking is photosynthesis. Of course, you know what staking does. It provides where those crops will just keep climbing and have enough space to exercise and express themselves, okay? That's what staking does. I hope you know that. So, but when you don't stake, the crops will just be growing around themselves and they will be revolving around themselves. And of course, the process of photosynthesis is a process that has to do with, sunlight. They use sunlight energy, you understand, to process the carbohydrates, you understand, to get, the material they are using. You understand now? Chlorophyll and the rest of them. And the byproduct is carbon 4 oxide and water. So based on that, if you don't stake, the process of photosynthesis will be very poor and the performance will not be wonderful. So that is the reason why staking is very important in yam.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Can we have your questions, please? Let's ask questions, please.
Lukman, can you tell us one or two things before we continue? We want to enter into the second facilitators section. So we need you to talk to us to know you are with us. And thank you. We can hear you.
Okay, Doctor, thanks very much for the presentation. It's been a good one so far. And at least the question I actually had, you addressed it before the end of the presentation, which is, at least I think when you look at it, one of the biggest challenges is weed management.
Yes.
And when you don't have work, when there are challenges with workers, coming and going and unstable, so you can end up in a situation where you can get overwhelmed. So what I wanted to ask is, if there are like strategies, herbicides, manual weeding, if there are other ways, that you can share that weed management can be done, so that all these strategies can be, combined to minimize the risk that comes with it.
Yeah, it's okay. And another thing I also want to say with respect to that weed management is that mulching too help to reduce weeds too. Mulching. There's so much noise coming from our moderator's angle.
This is what you do now. Ask to look at it.
Okay, so as we continue, there is when it comes to weed weed is a very dangerous, of course, in the weed, whether you attend to weed or not, whether you give weed fertilizer or not, it will do well. Sometimes you see the roof of a building, you see weed growing there. They have been wired to survive very harsh conditions. So when they compete with our crops, the crops are in serious mess. And that is why you need to weed at certain times of the growing stage of your crops. Immediately you planted, maybe after the first 4 weeks, you quickly weed. You understand? Immediately you do that weeding, the crops will be strong enough to stand. So the crops will quickly stand, be strong enough to stand. So, but if you leave the weeds, a time will come that even when you do the weeding and you apply fertilizer, the crops will struggle to pick up again, because at the time they need the nutrient most was the time that the weeds were with them, and these weeds actually competed effectively with them to take the nutrients from them, and the crops are now left, on their own to struggle. So weed management is very, very important. For any crop you are going into, you need to have a good understanding of the appropriate time of weeding. Also, you also do that as you monitor the farm itself to see when weeds are seriously coming up, you quickly weed. And these are some of the inputs that contribute to some of the cost of production in farming activities, because sometimes you have spent so much money to weed and all of that. So you do all you should do, so that if at the end of the day, if the crops are struggling, you know that you have done your own part. But when you have done your own part, definitely God will do his own part. Thank you very much. Is there any other question? I need some of our participants. Mr. Lukman is the one that I just responded to now. What about, Mrs. Sachede, can you please just talk to us? Let's know you are still following us before the second moderator, the second facilitator comes on board. So please, Mrs. Helen, can you just talk to us? Let's know if you are following.
Yes, the question I wanted to add, I think you've answered it already.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah. Mr. Ugochukwu, are you still battling your network challenge? If not, can you just talk to us briefly before we continue? Mr. Ugochukwu, can you please talk to us? Okay, while we are with him, we will still open up again for another time of interaction, question and answer time. So while we wait for that, I think I can now, am I the one that is introducing my second facilitator, or let our moderator do that? Mrs. Benedicta, you can go ahead and introduce her. Please go ahead. Thank you.
We want to welcome Ms. Satinuke into the platform. She is capable of telling us about the topic on cropping today. And as you do it, let our trainees listen attentively, and then they gather questions for her to be answered. So we welcome you, Ma, to the platform, and let's hear you. It's over to you, Ma.
Thank you very much, Ma. Thank you. Thank you for the introduction. And Dr. Obasi, you've really done justice to introduction to the farming, the conservation. It's like, personally also, I've actually learned a lot of things from you too today. And I'm so sure that every other participant also learned one or two things. Hello, can you hear me? Hello? Please, I need to know if you are hearing me, please.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we can hear you.
I'm hearing you.
Thank
but
you. Okay.
I'm hearing you, but as you are disturbing your earpiece, the thing is making a cracking sound. Just allow it. It's okay. Just leave it. It's okay. Just go ahead and
Yeah,
talk.
I'm fine. I'm fine. Thank you,
Good.
sir. So,
Okay.
and I'm very sure that the participants have actually learned a lot of things from the class also. And please, to all the participants, please don't forget that there's always quiz for you to answer at the end of each class. Please, you can log on, go to the portal and answer each of the quiz. It's part of your criteria for like a graduation from this class to get your certificates. Is there like assignment for you to do? So now, if we look at the syllabus, what we have left for today is our farm record. Like farm record, what is farm record? Why is farm record important? Why you should keep farm record? But one major thing I really want us to understand as farmers or intending farmers is farm recording is our first step to profitability. If you really want to know how profitable you are in business, then your farm record will tell you that. Now, how do I mean that you really want to know if you are profitable? Your farm record tells you every activity that is being engaged around your farming activities. For someone that is planting tomatoes, you have a farm record around where you got your seedling from, the day you planted, how you clear your land, the money spent on clearing, the money spent on getting your seedlings and your seeds, your nursery, where when you applied your first herbicide or your first fertilizer, you need to have farm record for everything to even harvest and even the market aspect of your product as an individual and as a farmer. So this also applies to every aspect of agriculture. So also to those in cassava, and I want to go into processing, you need to know the first time you plowed your land, the second time you plowed, where you got your stem from, your cassava stem from, your planting method. You should have record for how much you got those things from. Like the way you have recording for your financials is the way you have recording for other aspects of your farming, from planting to harvesting to processing. Like some of us are now going into processing. So processing, in your processing, you need to know how many tons of cassava that is being brought to your farm, or how many tons of cassava that you want to process at once. What are you processing into? What is the end product of your cassava? If you're processing into gari, so how many gari will 1 ton of cassava give you? You need to know that. You need to have it as in a record. Some farm records like keeping all activities around your farming business, because we need to know that agriculture or farming is not just farming, it's a business, and we are doing business. And because I know that we are not just planting for our family, I know we are planting for business. We want to make money, and that's why we are here to also see how we can get more money to push our business. So farming is a business on its own. So we need to treat it as a business, and that is one of the reasons why farm record is actually very, 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 very important to us. So what are these? Why do we keep farm record? Like, why do we keep farm record? What is the importance of farm record? Now, number one, it's just like why you are here. You want to get money from the CBN NISA program. That is why you are here. Have it at the back of your mind that if you have been running your farming business, the training is not what is just going to guarantee you for that loan. You're going to go through interview stage at the NISA office. And one of the things they're going to ask you is the record that you have been keeping, because they want to know if your business is profitable. They want to know if you are putting in best farming practices. That is one of the major reasons, because if you're getting money from investors, if you're getting money from governments as loan, if you're getting money from even people from philanthropists, grants, if you're getting grants, they will still come back to, okay, what are the records that you have for your farm? If you don't have record, then they say that you are not doing business at all. You are not doing business at all. You are not doing agricultural business at all. So they want to know, I want to see your record. They want to have better understanding about your business through your record. They want to know if you are putting the right thing, you are doing the right thing at the right time. They want to know if you know the right timing to cultivate. They want to know the right time for you to process. They want to know if even if you understood your market. They want to know if you are making profits or you are making loss. They really want to know. That is one of the reasons for financial institutions. One of the reasons why we are keeping farm record. Now, another reason why you should keep farm record is for better farm planning and forecasting. One of the things that is actually very important in agriculture is when you forecast and you have the farm planning. And what do I mean by farm planning? See, for people in vegetables, tomatoes, I tell people that don't just plant it the normal time that everyone is planting. Have the timing process of your planting. Do not just go into planting that you want to plant today and plant tomatoes. If you don't have better planning and forecasting, you might plant tomatoes at the period where there will be too much of tomatoes in the market that you might actually not make profit. You might not make profit, and and the next thing you start saying is, agriculture is not profitable. No, agriculture is profitable, but all you need to do is to have better farm planning and timing. Like someone like me, I do vegetables alongside with what I do, and you can never see me on the farm planting vegetable in rainy season, because I know that virtually at the end of everybody's house, you're seeing one vegetable or the other. So I do my vegetable during the dry season, because I don't know, by that time there will be scarcity of vegetables in the market, so I can make more money. In fact, if you do vegetable in dry season, you can make more than 50% of what you invested. But please do not, like I always tell people that want to go into agriculture or we're already practicing, please have every basic knowledge or basic understanding of what you're cultivating. It's actually very important. So have better planning. If you have good farm record, if it's something that you've tried before, like maybe something you've planted before, like someone that is doing tomatoes now, I expect you at this time to have a farm record for your tomatoes so that you can forecast, so that you can plan ahead, so that you can have better understanding, so that you can have better farming practices. And if you feel you need to learn more, so that you know, okay, I need to learn more. Do you understand? Farm record is also very important in the area of the tracking of your income and expenditure. Now, why is it important in your expenditure and your income? Let me tell you one major secret today. Most of our olden days father, or most of the farmers that we see in the market, most of them don't have farm records. So most of them don't even know maybe they are making profits or not. The people in the village, some of them is just for them to cultivate, sell, make money, feed themselves, feed their family, and they're good once they're able to eat. But like you, as an individual, that you are planning to do it as a good and major business, and you're trying to expand, you need to track your expenditure and your income. You need to know how much you invested on your farm. Okay, let's say if you are doing 1 hectare of cassava. Now let's use cassava as an example. You are doing 1 hectare of cassava. The money you invested in clearing of your land, if the land was not cleared before you maybe got the land, or maybe leased the land or got the land, you need to record the day you cleared the land, the money you spent in recording the land, in clearing the land. You need to record it. You need to record how many people worked on the clearing of the land and how long it takes them to clear 1 hectare. So that, if you know how long it takes them and how many people work on the land to clear the land, it will make you know the efficiency of the people on the farm and how you can actually shorten the time of clearing, because time is actually very important in business. Then another record you need to keep in cassava is plowing of your land, your first plowing. When did you do your first plowing? How much it cost you to do your first plowing? You need to record how much it cost you to do your second plowing. The day like the date of the time you did your second plowing. Where you got your cassava stem from. How much it cost you to get your cassava stem? How much it cost you to plant on 1 hectare? How much it costs you to weed during weeding management? How much it costs you? Maybe you want to apply fertilizer, or you want to apply an herbicide or pesticide or whatever. How much it costs you? During your harvesting period, how much it costs you to harvest? If you're going to be processing, how much it costs you to transport your harvested tuber to your factory or to where you want to process? How much it costs you to peel? How much it costs you to grate? How much it costs to fry your gari? These are the records you need to keep, that even when an investor, when anybody wake you up in your dream, you'll be able to tell them. You need to keep this record. So with this record, those are your expenditures. By the time you are selling your gari, or by the time you are selling your tuber, maybe you want to sell your cassava tuber, you don't want to process. By the time you're selling your tuber, you will know if you're profitable or not. Do you understand? You will know you are profitable or not. So that's one of the reasons why you need to keep financial record, track record of your income and expenditure. It helps you to know if you are making profits. It makes you to know if you are losing. It's very, very important. You need to keep a record of your daily activities on the farm. Sometimes most of us we just go to the farm and we just come back. I'm like, oh, I went to the farm today. I did this, I did that, with your mouth. But you are not showing, you're not writing down, okay, what did you do on the farm today? What happened on the farm that was not supposed to happen? How are you going to mitigate what happened on the farm? Okay, maybe cattle areas entered your farm, or yes, cattle enter your farm and they ate your cassava. You need to document it. You need to know better management practices. All these things need to be documented. Sometimes we feel these things are actually too much work for us to do. They are not too much work for us to do. Like, it is not too much work. It is just for us to know a better practice, a better way to practice our farming activities and our agribusiness activities, because it is a business. It is not just for you. It is not just for you to grow and eat and all that. It is a business. And this is one of the things that people that are going to give you money are going to be looking at. So if you are already in business at the moment, you started planting, you started cultivating, please go and put your record into place, because they are going to be asking you financial questions. How much you spend, how much you gain, when did you make your first gain and all that. They want to know. How long will it take you to make profit? They want to know. So please go and put your record in place. So those are some of the reasons why we should keep record. So what are the type of record that we need to keep as a farmer? I already said it earlier on, like some of the type of record. If you are in cassava, I've actually analyzed some of the record for you. Let me use myself and our own business as an example, because it's actually very good when you see a practical business that is running that can be used as an example. Now, let me use it. Since we have people who do cassava, let me use cassava as an example. We cultivate cassava. And we also have a model we also call as grower farmers. These are farmers that also cultivate for us, because you cannot channel all your energy on the primary cultivation if you want to go into processing. And always advise people, if you want to go into cassava cultivation, always also think about the value addition, the processing aspect. So for us, after keeping record of the primary cultivation, like the amount we got our stems, the farm practices, the plowing and everything, once an outgrower farmer, that's once farmers, outgrower farmers are people that we selected to cultivate for us. So what they do is the plants, we send in farm extension agents to give them good farming practices of what they are cultivating for us. They cultivate and they do everything they need to do, and then sell it back to us. So we are like their off-taker. So the record that we keep from them is the tons of cassava that was brought to the factory, we record it. The date that it was brought, we record it. The name of the farmer that brought it, we record it, so that if we have any issues, we'll know the person to meet. The phone number of the farmer that brought the cassava, we also record it. How much you bought the cassava from the farmer, we put it in a record. Now, before we peel, I'm using cattle food as a case study now. Before we peel, we measure everything, like the cassava itself, that's the tonnage of the cassava, we write it down. After peeling the cassava, we record what we get down, because we really want to know the outcome of the cassava, because by the time you remove the peel is not it can be used for animal feed, but it is not for consumption. So we record it before peeling and after peeling. We also record by the time you peel your cassava, let me use that. By the time you peel your cassava, you grate it and you ferment it. Okay. After fermentation, you go through all this hydraulic press and become into cake. We record that cake. The what we call the bagging ones that's already dried that you need to fry immediately. That's what we call cake in cassava processing. So we record that cake. After the recording of the cake, then we fry. After frying, we record the outcome. Do you understand? Record the outcome. After frying, you also sieve your gari. Then you get the normal gari, and you get the one with lumps. We Yoruba call it cocoa. The cocoa gari that you make into label for Ijebu for gari. And we record that too, because we want to know if the frying has issues. Because when your frying is not being done very well, we also have what we call the lumps one, the dry lumps one. So we record all those things. Why are we doing all this recording? Because we want to be accountable for everything that happens, and we want to know if you're making money or not. We want to know if what we bought is actually profitable or is not profitable. That is for us in cattle food. If we're also making it into flour, we also record it from your peeling, after peeling, from the cake to drying, after drying, we also record. Because we want to know how much more we invested and how much more we'll be getting, to know if it's profitable at that time. And in cassava processing, in dry season, you get more yield in processing. Whether you're processing to gari, you're processing to lafu, or you're processing to flour, because there's this low moisture content, low dry matter. Yes, the dry matter. Yes, because of the low dry matter. If the dry matter is low, you have a lesser because of too much of water in your cassava. But if the dry matter is high, you get more products. So for gari, especially in the southwest, where I don't know, in the southwest, in rainy season, if you're processing like 1.5 tons of cassava, you get roughly about 150 to 200 kg of gari. But if that's in rainy season. But in dry season, you can get as much as 250, 300 kg, because it already has a high dry matter. So too much of water in cassava also affects. So you need to record this down, so that you know the period you are making money. You know the period where you need to add more money to your product. Like you need to increase the product of your you need to increase the price of your product, and when you know that you can bring the product down. So this also still boils around your income and expenditure. For the person in tomatoes, tomatoes is one of the critical crop in agriculture. Like it is critical and needs so much monitoring than every other aspect in agriculture. Tomatoes and pepper. Now for tomatoes, you need to have a record of when, if you use a tractor to reach, or you use man to reach, to know when you plowed your land, to know when you reached your land, record of where you got your seed from. That is actually very important, because sometimes the sources of our seeds actually tells on our profitability. The sources of our seeds, where we source our seed from, tells on our profitability, and also tells on how good our crops or your tomatoes is also going to, or your crop, whatever thing you're going to do, how good is going to yield on the farm. I remember doctor telling us that you need to get it from a certified research institute, so that you know that you can guarantee where you are getting your seed from. It is actually very, very important. Please, you need to put that into record, the source of your seeds. Another thing you need to put in record is, for person in tomatoes and vegetables, the way your nursery. Now, your nursery type, you need to have the record of, okay, am I using a nursery tray, or am I just doing my nursery on the normal bare and plowed land? You need to know the date of your first germination. You need to know when your nursery gets to 2 weeks, because why I say 2 weeks is because at the age of 2 weeks, there will be a lot of insects like that, like white aphid on your tomatoes or your pepper. They will start perching around your tomatoes. So by that time, you need to start adding pesticides or fungicides to your tomatoes. So you need to know the first day of germination. You put record the first time you added fungicide or pesticide, or maybe organic fertilizer, which always is about 2 weeks. When your tomatoes or your vegetables about 2 weeks, you need to have that in record. You need to put into record the type of pesticide that you use, or the type of fungicide that you use, or the type of the organic manure or type of fertilizer that you use. Why are you putting this record? Because you want to know if it's having an adverse effect on your crop. Maybe it's making your crop do well, or it's not making it do well. Maybe you need to change. You need to put that into record. Another record you need to keep as a tomatoes and a vegetable farmer, you need to have a record of the day you transplant. Prof already told us that it is good to transplant in the morning, early in the morning, or late or in the evening, because of too much of sunlight and all that. So it is good to transplant in the morning. So you need to know, put it to record, the day you transplanted, so that you know if anything happens to it. Maybe it is true you're transplanting and all that. And we know that tomatoes is always like 3 months, our pepper is like 3 months, all other vegetables like our carrots like 3 months, our lettuce is like 3 months, all those things you need to put it into record. You need to know their days of germination, so that you know when to add fertilizer intervals and when to add your fungicide and all that. All this record needs to be kept. Why? For better farm practices, for better farm management. You need to have a record of your farm workers. Why do you need to have a record of your farm workers? Don't just have it on your head. Oh, okay, Usman is the one working on the farm today. Okay, what if it wasn't Usman that was on the farm the day Usman was supposed to be on the farm? You need to have the day of each of your farm workers, maybe they are working on the farm, or if they are going to be working together, so that if anything happens on the farm, you'll be able to point out the person who worked on the farm at that time. So keeping record of your farm workers is actually very, very important. Although some of us don't take that serious, which is actually very, very important. Because once you keep all this record, then I'm very sure that your farm is actually going to be smooth because you know what to do per time. For the person in soya beans and in beans, it's just like every other person I've mentioned. You need to know the source of your seedling. Where you're getting your soya beans or the things you want to cultivate from. Are you getting from a research institute, or you're getting from a verified merchant, or you're just getting from open market? Because all these things tells, like I said, your profitability starts from the day you got your seed and your land preparation method. You need to know where you got those seeds from. You need to know the planting method. Thank God, doctor already told us the planting space. The day you planted your first germination, and please, before you go into any of these things, you need to know that their germination day and their expected harvesting time. Maybe 3 months, maybe 45 days, just like your cucumber. If your cucumber is 45 to 60 days, your okra is 45 to 60 days, depending on the variety. Your watermelon is between 60 and 90 days and 75 days, depending on the varieties. So you need to know the different varieties. That's what I'm saying, that you need to know where you get your seed from. You need to know this to record the several varieties so that you know their germination and their harvesting time. So that you don't make mistake and you're thinking, oh, okay, if you're doing tomatoes, so that you don't, maybe you planted Roma tomatoes the first time, and you just got, and someone just gave you Abacus species of variety of tomatoes, and you think it's the same way you take care of your Roma that you take care of your Abacus. No, you need to have an understanding of the several varieties, the varieties that is good and the varieties that you feel can stand drought, can stand disease, can stand pest. You need to have the record of all these things. These are the things that make us a business person. A business person. Now, apart from that, coming to our financial record as an agri-business personnel, one of the major things that make financial institutes give you money, especially in agriculture, because let me tell you, most of all these financial institutes are actually very careful of giving people in agricultural line loans right now, because they always feel there's a lot of risk in agriculture. But one of the things that you can use to convince them is when your financial record is in place as an agricultural person, you are able, and you did not lie, you're not lying to them. We make them see why they should give you money and why they should invest in you. Your financial record is actually very important. They want to know, you need to know how much you have spent on every activity, to the extent of how much you spent on the fuel that you fare your vehicle that took you to the farm, because it is still your farming activities. So don't just say, it is my car, it is just my normal fuel. No, you need to quantify how much fuel that you put in that car that takes you to the farm. You can have every other fuel in your car, but you need to quantify that and you put it down. Okay, and my farming today, my fueling, it is 500 naira. You need to write it down. On Wednesday, I went to the farm. Oh, okay, I fueled my car. I went to buy drip irrigation material for the farm. I went to get fertilizer. I went to get, so you quantify the fuel that you use. It's still your farming. And they want to know. If you bought food for your workers on the farm, you need to put it down, because all these things actually are into your expenses. Do you get? These are your expenses. By tomorrow, one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow is costing of your crops or your agri produce. We'll be talking about the costing. We should be able to analyze so many things. So we'll be doing a lot of calculations tomorrow. So please get your calculator, because I'll be asking a lot of questions. Get the calculation, get your pen, get your sheet of paper. We'll be doing a lot of calculation around tomorrow because we're talking about costing. So you need to have this record. You might feel that they are not necessary. It is actually very necessary. If you bought food, like to pure water, if you bought water for your workers, put it in part of your expenses. So by the time you want to cost your produce, you will know what and what you've invested. So these are some of the records that you need to keep, which are very, very important. Like they are very, very important. Now, apart from farm record, another thing that we're supposed to talk about today is product planning. Like I said earlier, from having the right timing and the right forecasting for your crops. Now, doctor told us how the spacing, the days of germination, and all those things. Let me quickly clarify things. I'm actually talking to the person that was talking about 6 months cassava the other time. Don't be deceived. There is no cassava of 6 months. Sincerely. If you want to go into processing, please make sure that your cassava gets to about a year before you process. Why? Because of the cyanide level. And if you're going into starch, like Mrs. Eileen talked about going into starch processing. For starch, if you're going into starch processing, you need to know the variety of cassava that will actually get you the right starch content, which is 2419. So don't just plant white cassava and you think it's just white cassava. You need to know the variety that has a lot of starch content. 2419 has a lot of starch content, and I'll be talking about that when we're talking about the value addition. So in value addition, we'll talk more of the varieties and all that, so that we know which of the varieties is good for your starch, which of the varieties is good for your lafo, that kind of thing. So we'll talk about that. But for your product planning now, for you to go properly into your processing, for those that want to go into processing, I know everybody wants to go into processing of whatever you are cultivating. You need to understand your customer needs. What is that thing that my customer needs? Your customer needs determine your planning. Your customer needs determine the variety you are planting. Your customer needs determine what you'll be processing. If you don't have a market for your starch, do not go into starch processing because people are processing starch. Have your customer. Let them already go out, market, have customers that are ready to offtake that, because one of the things actually very, very important in agriculture, agribusiness is your market. Marketing helps you for your product planning. Marketing helps you in cultivation. It's actually very important. Please, like I tell people, if you don't have market for whatever thing you want to harvest, or whatever thing you want to cultivate, or whatever thing you want to process into, please do not go into it, so that by the time your product is ripe for harvest, or by the time your processing is ripe, your product will not turn to prayer point and start praying like, hey, God will bring buyers to buy. No, you need to have a ready-made market for yourself that are ready to offtake. I know this is one of the aspects that is actually very, very critical to people. But mind you, I have come to learn in my year of experience in business that in marketing and in business, don't be shy, because it helps you in planning right from your cultivation to your processing and to market. Don't be shy to tell people what you do. In your planning, in your products planning also, apart from knowing your customer needs, because one of the most important is that your product is meeting a need. So you're not just like every other person. But people that are going into Gary, what is that specialty that you're bringing into Gary that will make people buy from you? See, Gary is a product that does not require advertisement. Gary is everywhere. So you need to know that specialty. What is that special thing that you're bringing into your Gary that will make people want or need your Gary? Doctor also made mention of the pro-vitamin cassava. That's the yellow root cassava. I will see if I can get yellow root cassava to show us, because 80% of my production, I'm happy when doctor was talking about the yellow root cassava. 80% of our production in cattle food is yellow root cassava. The other 20% is the white one because we actually want to stand out. Now we'll see if I can bring some of the products that we actually make from that yellow root so that you can see the gari. It's like the doctor said, it is naturally yellow. You don't even need to add palm oil to it, it's naturally yellow. So you need to understand all these things before going into your market and before saying, I want to plant cassava or I want to process cassava and I want to do this. For tomatoes, your product planning, you need to have a plan around, okay, what if there is a glut of tomatoes in the market and people are buying a big basket for us as high as 1,000, 2,000 naira? What is your plan? What did you plan to mitigate the risk of selling at or not making profit? You need to have that plan. Okay, if there's glut in the market, am I planning to process into paste? Am I planning to process into tomato powder? Yes, there's tomato powder. Am I planning to sell it off to major supermarket? Okay, now or your own thing is just to plan and to sell to the open market. Now, if you're selling to open market, you need to have the plan of what are you using to transport your vegetables and your vegetables, tomatoes, and other vegetables to your open market. Do you want to use your cold chain logistics, or you just want to use the normal pickup to transport? You know that two different these things are two different. Your mode of transportation is actually in two different ways. It's either a cold chain logistics, you're using a cold chain logistics, or you're using the normal pickup. Now, what is the difference between the two? You're using a cold chain logistics. This is a kind of logistics system where you are transporting your tomatoes or other vegetables in a confined temperature, like in a moderate temperature. So it's like transporting in a cold environment, like a freezer, it's not a freezer now, but in a regulated temperature that once the tomato gets to market, it is still very fresh, it is still very neat. Like people like those are type of tomato you see in ShopRite. You see all these major big Sahad, all these major big supermarket, and you see those fresh tomatoes. They're actually transporting the cold chain logistics. Do you want to use the normal van, like normal pickup? And you should also know the risk of this normal pickup, theft on the way, rain, sun, and when you get to the market, some of the tomatoes are wasted. You need to have the plan. Okay, what is my plan? If I'm doing cold chain or if I'm doing normal van, you need to have a good understanding of that. For person in soya beans or beans, proper planning of what to do with your beans. Yes, you want to sell to open market. The way of to thresh your beans. Are you using a threshing machine? Are you thinking of using a threshing machine? Are you thinking of using the normal manpower to thresh, like to start eating your beans and all that? You should have a proper planning. And one of the most important aspects in proper planning for your crop is planning time and season. Like I mentioned this when we were starting, planning time and season is actually very, very important. That is what makes you a business person in the agricultural sector. Your planning time, and so you need to understand when what you are planting is going to be in scarcity, when it's not going to be so much available. We know that most farmers in Nigeria, most farmers actually wait for rain to cultivate. If you have access to irrigation, just like Mr. Lukman said at the beginning of the class, that he's looking at getting irrigation material that can help him to irrigate his farm. If you're going to be using irrigation, what's that time, that aspect that you can cultivate more, which is the dry season for people in vegetables and for people in tomatoes. Dry season, and you can actually plant throughout the year since you have irrigation. You can plant when there is no too much, there is rain, and you can plant when there is no, because you already have irrigation. Also, you need to know also the right time to plant. For for people in vegetable, you know that too much of rain is not good for tomatoes, and it's not good for your pepper because it affects their germination, it affects their roots and their leaves, it affects their fruiting. You need to have all this understanding to have a proper planning of the time you need to plant. Now, for people in cassava, something happened this year that everybody were not expecting. We did not expect it in cassava. Now look at in cassava is now very, very expensive. No, like from my side where I operate, the cassava we get for 30,000 is now about 6. The size of cassava we get for 30,000 naira as at last year is now about 6. Is now 60,000 naira this year. Why? Because as at last year, people sold cassava at a loss, they'd actually lose on their cassava because there was a lot of cassava loss in the market and all that. So that did not encourage people to plant that last year, to replant the cassava stem last year. And that actually caused a scarcity for this year. And the pandemic also now added to the whole matter. So now farmers are leveraging on the scarcity of cassava, and farmers are now leveraging on the pandemic. But in the midst of the pandemic, one beautiful thing also happened. Now there is ban on importation of maize. As there is ban on importation of maize, there will be so more pressure on cassava for people in animal feed, because now they will use cassava peels as their major source of energy for their animals. So if I can advise you now, if you have land, you can plant cassava, because you will definitely sell by next year, because there will be a lot of pressure on cassava to actually meet the demand of so many industries. We're talking about this in the value chain, but you need to understand all this strategy. You need to understand all this market research for you to have a better way to plan your product and better way to cultivate. So I think those are the two major things that are left for today to touch. So by tomorrow, we'll be talking more about the cost implication. We're talking about our financial discipline. We'll be talking more about how we can cost our produce. And the third is the value addition, if you go through the cost outline, which I've done. And I will see by tomorrow if I can take you, if we can do a lot of, because I know I and Doctor were talking about in their course at time we saw something like a farm tour or something. I will see if I can do a farm tour around our own facility, our own industry, for those people in cassava, so that you can see some of the major equipment that you might be needing, and the one that you might not need at the moment, the one you can start with if you can't invest in something so much for now. So I think I'll be doing that for you tomorrow. I will try my best if I can do that tomorrow, and if time is permit us. So with that, I think we have come to the end of today's lectures. So with any other contribution from Doctor. And
hello.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for the lecture, and we have heard you, because we know that there should be record keeping of all the activities we do. And I would like to ask the trainees if they have questions to ask before we go further.
Yes.
Please, if you have questions.
Okay, while we wait for the trainees, let me just say one or two things. But then our trainees, please, people have to quickly be responding, because what will give us encouragement to keep talking and keep, facilitating is when we hear that you are really getting something from what we are saying. You don't just burn out your life and somebody is not responding somewhere. It's as if we are just talking to ourselves. So please, you need to be responding. We know while we are all trying to conserve data, because in this kind of meetings, data is going to be used like water. But then it is worth it. It is worth it. I want to say that indeed, Ms. Atinuke has really been wonderful. She has, in fact, when people that have experience are talking, you will know. The thing will just be flowing. So many things to talk about, so many things want to come out at the same time because of so much experience. And so it is left for our participants to really utilize this opportunity. And I do hope most of them are jotting something down. You're picking something from what we are saying. And thank God this program, this is meant to span for days. It's not just for today. So when you are going through some of the things we have said, if there is anything you remember in the course of your going through them and you feel like asking questions, please put your questions down. Or if there are some areas you're having one challenge or the other, please don't, hesitate to bring it up. We have enough time. In fact, as a matter of fact, I even expected at today's meeting to span till 12, but we may not really stay up till 12 because we have actually done our little best today. So if you have anything to talk about, it's not just us that will talk for the 6 hours. We will talk our own. You too, you talk your own.
You talk. That's it.
So when you are talking, when you are talking, it will help us. It will encourage us. It will be more interactive. We will be overcoming the barriers of all these internet online things. Because if we are in one place, everybody's attention will be well captured. But it is when you are talking to us that we will know that we are actually capturing your attention. But if you are not talking to us, we won't know that. I want to say that Ms. Atinuke has really done wonderfully well. There is, okay, can we get a response now? I'm sure that Lukman is on and Helen too. So can you people go ahead and talk to us?
Yes, I have a question.
Okay, please go ahead.
Mrs. Atinuke, thank you for that explanation. You mentioned about cassava 3419 for starch. Can you elaborate on that and that of yellow cassava?
Okay, ma'am. So I actually mentioned CME 419 for starch because of its starch content. Most starch industries use CME 419 because CME 419 has more starch content than every other species of cassava. We also have some species of some variety of cassava that also have starch content. Now, note, all cassavas are starch. They all have starch. But starch industries prefer, because if you're going into starch, you say you're going to starch, you have to have the equipment that you use to analyze the starch content of each of the cassava that is being brought to your farm or to your industry or to your factory, so that you know if the starch is high or low. And most of these factories also pay people in starch industries. They also pay according to the starch content. So they always prefer CME 419 because it has high starch content than the other varieties. Now, for the yellow cassava is not, you can't use yellow cassava for starch because it has a very, very low starch content. The benefit of yellow cassava over the white cassava is because the yellow cassava is healthier for human consumption than the white. The cyanide in yellow cassava is low compared to that of the white. The vitamin A content in yellow cassava. Now, what makes it yellow? It's not like I will see if I can get the yellow cassava to bring for us tomorrow. Yes, I will try my best. I can send somebody to the farm to bring yellow root. Now, it is yellow, so it's not like the back is the one yellow, it's the inside that is yellow. why it is yellow is because of the beta carotene, that's the vitamin A content in the cassava. So it is, a lot of people look at it if it's a GMO cassava or it is not GMO. It is not GMO. It is biofortified, not genetically modified. Now, this yellow root is just good for human consumption. So you can make it into your flour. You can make it into your gari. You can make it into your fufu. But I don't advise you make it into lafun. Why? Because in your lafun for Ugoshuku said you want to make into lafun. I don't advise yellow cassava into lafun because by the time you are drying your lafun in maybe your cabinet dryer or on the open field, the beta carotene starts to break down. That's the vitamin A breaks down. But in gari, it is very good for gari. Now we have custard. Yes, we have custard from cassava, which is called custard. You can only use your yellow roots to make the custard, which you cannot use the white root for. So the yellow root is basically for consumption. The major purpose of the yellow root is to put nutrients in the major staple food that we eat in Nigeria, because cassava is one of our major staple foods. 6 out of every 10 homes in Nigeria feed on cassava in one way or the other. If you are not drinking gari, you are taking fufu, you are taking lafun, you are taking tapioca, you are taking flour, the cassava flour for baking industries and all that. So the major reason why the vitamin cassava comes into a system is because they want people to eat healthy, the vitamin A content, and also feed on the normal stable food. So it's not like the taste is different. The taste is not different. The way we have the vitamin cassava, we also have the orange sweet potato. The way you have your orange, your potato that is white, you also have your orange sweet potato. That one is orange color. I have that one at home, so I can actually bring it for you tomorrow. It is orange color. So that is the major reason why the vitamin cassava is in a system for consumption, but not for industrial use for starch. No, but you can make your yellow roots into your flour for confectionaries, biscuit companies, bread industries, cake, for those in confectionaries generally. So that's that. Have I been able to answer your question, Mrs. Eileen?
Yes, thank you very much.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Okay.
So we have a question from Lukman and Goshiku.
Okay, yeah, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
As a good presentation. I mean, record keeping is really important. Apart from for official engagements like sourcing for funding.
Yeah.
So it's also good, like you have mentioned, to even know if you're making profit or not, because people do this kind of business for years and they just realize one day that there's not enough money to run the operations anymore, just because not proper record is being kept. So I wanted to ask if, as part of this course, you have maybe like templates or record keeping for different kind of operations.
Okay, I will definitely do that and share with you tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will share with you. I will try and see if I can channel it to each person's industry to make those cassava and share it to everyone tomorrow.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Ugochi, could we have a question from you?
Ugochukwu, we've not heard from you recently.
Hello.
Yes, you can go ahead and talk.
Yeah. I'm following the class. I'm just jotting that. I don't want to start asking for. Let me have my full question on the full list. Then I can start training them up, sir.
Okay, maybe subsequently. Class, okay, maybe yes, in the next class, because we're actually trying to round off today's class now.
Okay, sir. No problem, sir. I'm with the class, sir.
So, I'm on. Okay, good. Shortly before we round off, I want to really say that this exercise is very wonderful. I want to say that many people who have sourced for loans in the past most of them didn't have this opportunity of passing through this kind of training. And at the end of the day, they cannot even talk about that loan again because the whole thing ended in disaster. So, but there is no how you can pass through this kind of training and you won't make good use of the opportunity. Ugochukwu, please mute yourself. Mute yourself. You are talking to us. So, based on that, it is very, very crucial. And I want to thank God for you that have been a part of this. And also, I want to thank my colleague. I want to, some of the issues she raised, they are, in fact, it dawned on me that really, it's only in agriculture that we have an enterprise or a productive enterprise where you may not see exactly that your input determines your output. In other productive ventures, for those who produce plastic chairs, they already know the amount of latex they will pour into their mold and it will yield so number of chairs. But in agriculture, there are so many environmental factors. When I was in the university, there is one mango tree that was standing beside our hostel. So this mango tree really fruited so well that year. It was a very wonderful fruiting. We were already rejoicing, waiting for the thing to start ripening. Just one day at the beginning of one rain like that, one terrible storm, breeze, wind just came alongside with that rain. More than half of all the fruit on that mango tree was on the ground. So under that condition now, if you are a farmer, you have collected loan to do that mango as a business, what will you do when nature, environmental factor has actually come to destroy more than half of the yield? So in agriculture, we see this kind of thing, taking place. In most part of the country, you will finish farming, the herdsmen will just go and graze on the farm. When the farm is at the peak of production or when they have finished producing, herdsmen will just go and graze on it. And after that grazing, the life of that farm will never remain the same again. So these are what most farmers pass through and all of that. And that is why at least you do your part. We are all praying, trusting God to help us in all this. But when you have done all you're supposed to do, I know God will really help you to succeed. You understand? So please, tomorrow, let's come. I also believe we will have more people tomorrow. In this material, most of the farmers who are interested in this, most of them cannot use computer. They can't use Zoom technology. And that is why we are not having them on this platform. So we have so many of them. Maybe we hope that by tomorrow, some of them would have come up enough to be able to join us. If not, I don't know how it's going to be. But we will keep doing our, the much we can. Of course, then as you need to know exactly, there are some things that Ms. Atinuke mentioned, like know what your customers need. Don't just say because this person is doing it, you just go and farm finish. And one day you harvest a truckload of corn, of maize, fresh maize. And of course, fresh maize needs to be roasted or boiled and be sold in a very short period of time. And if that is not done, the whole thing will just scatter and spoil. So if you don't have your customers who you will surely, as you are bringing them from the field, you are taking those things to them, or they are coming to your field to buy them, you may still run at a loss. So agriculture is an integrated, calculated business. You don't just venture into it and say, yes, I'm now.
Hello.
I think
Hello.
network.
Hello.
Hello, ma'am.
I want to know if you have concluded the program.
Yes, Dr. Sonny was actually rounding up before. I think the
Okay.
network.
Okay. In summary of the lecture today, we want to thank the two facilitators for job well done, for imparting in us the knowledge on planting today. The first facilitator, Dr. Obasi, talked on pre-planting and planting process, which includes knowing types of crops you grow, make ridges, plotting, planting spacing, plant timing, and the depth. In post-planting, he talked about thinning, supplying, mulching, manuring, harvest taking, and weeding. The second facilitator talked on record keeping of activities in farming and financial documentation to enable us know if we are progressing or not and how to improve on it. She also talked on product planning, like transporting, etc. So we have come to the end of today's lecture. We hope to see you tomorrow. And once more, I thank you all and God bless.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thanks for having us too. Bye.
Bye.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello. I hope you. Hello. Some of our people are no more there. They are gone. Okay, let's just say that I'm seeing you and some other of our people have gone. Actually, I had a network challenge. This thing just got disconnected. So Gochuku, you have persisted. Thank God for you. You look like one Alhaji. So Kekwano. Okay, wow.
Thank God. I know me.
Yes. So just as we're saying, you are into cassava processing and all of that. That is what you want to expand.
Yes, sir. Farming and processing.
Oh, good. So God will really help you to do well in that. So all of this will give you more insight, more ideas on how you are really going to get your things together, put your applications together and all of that, so as to be able to get the facility, the loan, and all of that. So, and of course, there is no how you do all of this we have stated and you won't do well. One of the challenges we have in farming activities is lack of commitment to it. When you are not committed to it, you won't get the expected result. So that is it. So by God's grace, tomorrow, the course of my facilitation tomorrow, I will bring out some templates too with respect to certain planting seasons, both wet season planting and dry season planting. So all of that, we will talk about them and how to structure your planting and things like that. So we will mention that for tomorrow during tomorrow's facilitation class. So I think we have had a very good day. This is exactly 11:30. It's really been wonderful. So hope we will meet tomorrow, and tomorrow's class should be more loaded and more interesting than today's own. So thank you for staying till the end. Network logged me off. Maybe people thought we have ended.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Back.
Thank
So
you
I
for
think we can
imparting
end it
in
now.
us today. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, sir.
God bless you. Thank you. Bye.
Amen.
Yeah, thanks.